Section 19 of Modern Magic. Recording by K. Hand. Modern Magic, a practical treatise on the art of conjuring by Professor Lewis Hoffman. Tricks with coin without apparatus, Part 2. To pull 4 florins or half-crowns through a handkerchief. You begin by borrowing 4 marked half-crown florins, or penny pieces, and a silk or cambric handkerchief. You then request the assistance of a very strong man. This gives an opportunity for a little fun in the selection. Having at last found a volunteer to your liking, you seat him on a chair facing the company. Spreading the handkerchief on your left palm and placing the 4 coins upon it, you close your hand upon them through the handkerchief, and hand them to him, requesting him to hold them firmly. Then, as if suddenly recollecting yourself, you say, "Pardon me, I have omitted one little detail which is rather important. Oblige me with the handkerchief again for one moment, if you please. I ought to have shown the company that there are no holes in it." The last sentence should not be pronounced until you have gained possession of the handkerchief, as the company might possibly declare themselves satisfied of the fact without examination, which would not answer your purpose. The handkerchief being returned to you, you spread it out to show that it is free from holes, coming among the audience to do so, and appearing to lay great stress upon the fact. Again, spreading it over your left hand, you count the coins one by one upon it. Then, giving a glance round at the company, you say, as you quickly return to your platform, "You have all seen that the 4 coins are fairly wrapped in the handkerchief," or make any other remark in order to draw the general attention, as a sharp, quick remark almost always will, to your face, and away from your hands. At the same moment you move the left thumb over the face of the coins, thereby covering them with a fold of the handkerchief, and seize them through the fold thus made between the thumb and fingers of the right hand, as indicated in Fig. 79, immediately withdrawing the left hand. The coins will now be held in the right hand, and the handkerchief hanging down loosely around them. To anyone who has not watched your movements with more than ordinary vigilance, it will appear that the coins are within and under the handkerchief, though they are in reality wrapped in an external fold. Giving them a twist round in the handkerchief, you hand it to the person assisting you, asking him to say whether the money is still there, to which he naturally replies in the affirmative. You then tell him to grasp the handkerchief with both hands 3 or 4 inches below the coins, and to hold as tightly as he possibly can. Placing your wand under your right arm and taking hold of the coins, through the handkerchief, with both hands, the right hand undermost, you begin to pull against him, making a show of pulling with great force, and remarking that you are very glad it is not your handkerchief, that you should not have thought he was so strong, etc. Meanwhile, and while the company are enjoying the discomfiture of the owner of the handkerchief, you untwist the latter and secretly get the money out of the fold into your right hand and palm it therein. Give one last pull with your left hand and let go smartly, observing that you fear you must give up, and own yourself conquered. Take your wand in your right hand. This will make it seem natural for you to keep that hand closed, and will materially aid in concealing the fact that the money is therein. Your antagonist, or the spectators for him, will by this time have discovered that the money has vanished, but you pretend to be unconscious of the fact, and request him to give it back, that you may return it to the owners. He naturally declares that he has not got it. With all the seriousness that you can command, you insist that he has got it, and that he must restore it. On his continued denial, you suggest he should search his pockets, which you tap, one after another, with your wand, giving a metallic sound as if containing money, but the coins are still not to be found. At last, after all his pockets have been tried in vain, you, as if upon a sudden thought, tap the leg of his trousers, the metallic clink still following every tap of the wand, till you have nearly reached his feet, when you exclaimed, "Yes, there it is. Will you have the kindness to put your foot on that chair?" He does so, and quickly transferring your wand to the left hand, with the fingers of your right you turn up the edge of the trouser, giving at the same time a slight shake, when the 4 coins are seen to fall out, to the great surprise of the victim. The effect is produced as follows. The coins being in your right hand, you introduce them with the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers under the edge of the trouser. Then, with the 1st finger and thumb, which are left outside, you nip them through the cloth, and hold them an instant till you have withdrawn the remaining fingers, when, with a slight shake, you let them fall. The metallic chink on tapping the pockets may be produced in 2 ways. One method is to use a hollow metal wand, japanned to match the one you ordinarily use, and containing throughout its length a loose piece of thick wire, which, striking against the sides of the tube, exactly imitates the chink of money. The other mode is to merely use the ordinary wand, allowing the end which you hold to chink against the money held in the same hand. With a little practice, the effect is equally deceptive as with the special wand. To pass a marked florin, or half-crown, into the center of 2 oranges in succession. For this excellent trick a little previous preparation is necessary. A slit An inch and a half deep and just large enough to admit a florin is made in each of the 2 oranges, and in one of them a florin, which for distinction we will call number 1, is placed. These must be put in readiness behind the scenes, or so placed as to be out of sight of the audience. The performer palms in either hand a second florin, number 2, and advancing to his audience, borrows from one of them a florin, first marked by the owner. This last we will call number 3. He invites special attention to the fact that throughout the experiment he is about to perform, the coin is never removed from their sight, and he accordingly places it, really substituting, by one or other of the changes, florin number 2, in full view on his table. He then goes out to fetch an orange, and takes the opportunity of slipping the marked florin, number 3, into the vacant one. He brings forward this orange publicly, and places it on the table at his right hand. The other orange he has meanwhile placed in his secret pocket on the right side, ready for palming at a moment's notice. He then says, "I think, by the way, it would be as well to have 2 oranges. Can any gentleman oblige me with one?" No one responding, he looks about him, and presently stepping up to one of his audience, pretends to take from his hair, hat, or handkerchief the second orange, which contains, it will be remembered, florin number 1, and places it on the left side of the table. He now, standing behind his table, asks into which orange, the right or the left, he shall pass the florin. As the right of the audience is his left, he is at liberty to interpret the answer in whichever way he thinks proper, and he does so in such a manner as to designate the orange containing the non-marked florin number 1. Thus, if the audience say the left, he answers, "On my left? Very good." If they choose the right, he says, "On your right? Very good." Not one person in 1,000 will detect the equivoque. Taking up florin number 2 from the table, and holding it in his left hand, he pretends by the tourniquet to take it in his right, and thence to pass it into the orange, meanwhile dropping it from his left hand on to the servante or into the profonde. Showing his hands empty, he cuts open the orange, and exhibits the florin, number 1, therein contained. Before giving the audience time to examine it for the mark, he hears, or pretends to hear, a murmur among them to the effect that that was not the orange chosen. "Pardon me," he says, "some of you seem to think that I had a special reason for preferring this particular orange. I gave you absolute liberty to choose which you liked, and I understood you to say that you chose this one. However, in order to satisfy everyone, I will repeat the trick with the other orange." Taking up the second orange, he thrusts the knife through it, in the slit already made, and gives the knife thus loaded to someone to hold. Then, standing at some distance from it, he takes up florin number 1, and, getting rid of it by one or another of the passes previously described, he makes a motion as if throwing it towards the orange. He now requests the person holding the orange himself to cut it open, when the genuine florin, number 3, is found therein and duly identified. The finding of the second orange in the possession of the company may, if preferred, be omitted, and both oranges brought forward openly in the first instance. Occasionally a refractory spectator may insist upon the wrong orange, i.e., that containing the genuine coin, being cut open first. As you have offered the audience the choice, you cannot well resist this, but it makes very little difference. In accordance with this general desire, you cut open the orange and show the coin, number 3, drawing particular attention to the mark. Its identity being fully established, you offer, for the general satisfaction, to pass the same coin into the second orange. Being satisfied that it was the genuine coin in the first case, the audience will more readily believe that it is so in the second, but in this case you should cut open the second orange yourself, as it will be necessary to again substitute the genuine florin before you hand the coin to be examined. The flying monkey. To make a coin pass invisibly from the one hand to the other, and finally through the table. Have ready beforehand a florin or half-crown, with a little wax on one side of it, and take an opportunity of secretly sticking it, by means of the wax, against the underside of the table, any ordinary table, with which you intend to perform the trick. Have also a similar coin of your own palmed in your right hand. Borrow a marked florin from one of the company, and lay it carelessly upon the table, but in doing so exchange it for the one previously palmed. You now have the substitute on the table, and the marked coin palmed in its place. Turn up your sleeves to show that they have nothing to do with the trick, and make a few introductory remarks about the extraordinary power of the mesmeric influence as applied to metallic substances. Then, taking up the coin from the table between the fingers and thumb of the left hand, which you hold with the palm towards the company, so as to show incidentally that it is otherwise empty, continue to the following effect. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is an ordinary coin, a mere inert piece of silver. If you take it in your hand, there it will remain till you lay it down. But let a person possessing the mesmeric gift only breathe upon it, you suit the action to the word, and it is at once endowed with hearing, sense, and motion, and will fly from hand to hand at the mere word of command, and that so rapidly that its flight is absolutely invisible. See, I take it so," taking it in the right hand. "1, 2, 3, pass!" and it flies back into my left hand again. In order to show that there has been no substitution, perhaps the owner will kindly verify the mark. The coin is examined and found to be the same. This illusion is produced as follows. When you breathe upon the substitute coin, you naturally turn the left hand palm upwards. In the act of taking that coin in the right hand, which you do with the hands in the position depicted in Fig. 69, you drop the genuine coin, which was previously palmed in the right hand, into the left, the position of the hand concealing it from the audience. After a momentary pause, you close the left hand and hold it extended about level with your eyes. At each of the words 1, 2, 3, you make a slight motion of the right hand towards it, and at the word pass, palm the coin by means of pass 1, at the same time making a half turn of your body to the left, opening the left hand, and pointing with the index finger of the right hand to the coin lying therein. While it is being examined for the mark, you drop the substitute, which remains palmed in your right hand, into the pocket on that side, and bring your hand up empty. Having proceeded thus far, borrow a second florin, but without in this case suggesting that it should be marked. Breathe upon it, and lay it with that first used upon the table. Now with your right hand take up one of the coins, and by pass 1 pretend to transfer it to the left, really retaining it in the palm of the right hand. Then take up the second coin between the fingers and thumb of the right hand, and announce that you are about to make the coins, which you now hold in each hand, come together. Holding your arms well apart, you make a motion with the left hand as if throwing something towards the right, at the same moment saying as before, 1, 2, 3, pass, and making the two coins in the right hand come together with an audible chink. You then open the hand and show that the left is empty, and that both of the coins are together in the right hand. You continue. You all think you know how that was done, I dare say. Imagine, no doubt, that the money was merely thrown from one hand to the other with extreme rapidity. The quickness of the hand deceives the eye, as Shakespeare, or somebody else, says. I will therefore show you the same experiment in another form, in which you will find that no such solution is admissible. I will pass the money right through this table, which, as you see, is pretty solid. The quickness of the hand would not be of much use in this case. I take one of the coins in the left hand as before. Here, however, you introduce a feint. Taking up the coin in the right hand, you transfer it to the left, but purposely do it with a pretended awkwardness, and hold the right hand afterwards rather stiffly, so as to lead the spectators to believe that you have really retained the coin in the right hand. To do this cleverly will require considerable practice, but it will by no means be labor lost, as feints of this kind are of frequent use. The spectators, delighted to have, as they imagine, caught you tripping, are sure to exclaim that the coin is still in your right hand. "Surely, ladies and gentlemen," you say with an injured air, "you don't think that I would avail myself of such a transparent artifice. See for yourselves," opening your hands. "I won't ask you to apologize, but pray give me a little more credit for the future. Come, we will have no mistake about it this time." Take the florin between the finger and thumb of the left hand, and by means of the tourniquet or pincette, appear to transfer it to the right. Pick up the second coin with the left hand, and place that hand under the table, holding the closed right above it. Say, "Pass," open the right hand, show it empty, and at the same moment chink the two florins together in the left hand, and bring them up for inspection. Looking around you, you continue. I am afraid you are only half convinced. Some of you look incredulous still. Come, we will try the experiment once more, and we will see whether you can find me out this time. As before, I take one coin in each hand. This time you actually do so. You again pass your left hand under the table, detaching in its passage the third florin, which you had previously stuck to the underside of the table, but taking care that the two do not prematurely jingle together. Then, holding the other florin with the finger to the right hand, which should be held palm downwards about a foot above the table, make pass 1 with that hand, thus bringing the coin into its palm, and at the same time chink the other two coins in the left hand and bring them up for examination. One of them in this instance is a substitute, and therefore, in the unlikely event of the audience insisting that the trick should be performed with marked coins, this last act must be omitted. With a regular conjuring table, this trick might be made even more surprising, from the facilities which the servante would afford for getting rid of and regaining the coin. But even if you habitually use such a table, it is better not to avail yourself of it for this performance. The trick is, in any shape, too minute for stage performance, and in a drawing room it is apt to draw special attention to the table, which in the case of a trick table is a little embarrassing. End of Section 19. Section 20 of Modern Magic. Recording by K. Hand. Modern Magic, a practical treatise on the art of conjuring, by Professor Lewis Hoffman. Tricks with coin without apparatus, Part 3. To rub 1 sixpence into 3. This is a simple little parlor trick, but will sometimes occasion great wonderment. Procure 3 sixpences of the same issue, and privately stick 2 of them, as directed for the florin in the last trick, with wax, to the underside of a table, at about half an inch from the edge, and 8 or 10 inches apart. Announce to the company that you are about to teach them how to make money. Turn up your sleeves, and take the third sixpence in your right hand, drawing particular attention to its date and general appearance, and indirectly to the fact that you have no other coin concealed in your hands. Turning back the table cover, rub the sixpence with the ball of the thumb backwards and forwards on the edge of the table. In this position your fingers will naturally be below the edge. After rubbing for a few seconds, say, "It is nearly done, for the sixpence is getting hot," and, after rubbing a moment or two longer with increased rapidity, draw the hand away sharply, carrying away with it one of the concealed sixpences, which you exhibit as produced by the friction. Pocketing the waxed sixpence, and again showing that you have but one coin in your hands, repeat the operation with the remaining sixpence. The multiplication of money. This is an old and favorite trick. It may be performed with shillings, pence, or florins, as may best suit your convenience. Whichever you use, we will suppose florins. You prepare for the trick by secretly palming in the right hand such number, say 3, as you intend to magically add. Advancing to the audience, you beg the loan of 10 or a dozen florins (the precise number is immaterial), at the same time requesting someone of the company to collect them and bring them to you. He collects, we will suppose, 12. You request him to count them openly on the table, that all may be able to verify their number. This being done, you invite a second person also to step forward and assist. Picking up from the table the same number of coins as you have concealed in your palm, you give them to one of the 2 persons, whom we will call A, to hold. Then, taking up the remaining coins, you request the second person, whom we will call B, to take charge of them. When he holds out his hand to receive them, you let fall with them the palmed coins, so that he really receives 12, though he believes that he only has 9. You make him close his hand, and hold it high above his head. You then ask A for the coins you entrusted to him. On his returning them to you, you take them between the second finger and thumb of the left hand, and pretend by the tourniquet to transfer them to the right, really getting rid of them at the earliest opportunity on the servante or into one of your pochettes. The audience believe that the 3 coins are in your closed right hand. You announce that you are about to pass them invisibly into the hand of B, and after the necessary amount of magical gesture, you open your hand and show that they have vanished, and B, on examining his stock, finds that the supposed 9 have increased to 12. It is a very good plan, in performing this trick, for the performer himself to collect the coins from the company in a plate, the coins to be added being held in the same hand which carries the plate, when, the thumb being naturally above and fingers below, the coins are effectually concealed. After the coins have been counted, the performer, taking the plate in the other hand, pours them from it into the hand which already holds the concealed coins, thus bringing them together easily and naturally. A further improvement may be made in the trick by using, in place of an ordinary plate, a special plate or salver, generally made of tin japanned, but sometimes of crockery or china. The specialty of this plate, which is known as the money plate or multiplying salver, consists in a flat space running along its bottom, between its upper and under surface, just wide enough and deep enough to hold concealed a row of coins, florins or shillings as the case may be, and closed at the one end, but open at the other, the opening being concealed by the edge of the plate. See Figure 80. You prepare the plate beforehand by placing in the concealed space 3, 4, or 6 coins, and place it on your table. When you first take it up, you take hold of it near the opening, when you may, of course, handle it as freely as you please, as, the mouth of the passage being upwards, the coins cannot possibly fall out. Letting the plate hang downwards in a perpendicular position, and passing it carelessly from hand to hand, the audience cannot help observing that you have nothing concealed in your hands. Then collect, or count out if already collected, the money in the plate, and, after taking away and handing A number equal to the coins concealed, pour the remainder direct from the plate into the hands of B. First, however, so reversing the position of the plate, which you may do by merely transferring it from one hand to another, as to turn the opening of the passage away from you. When you now slope the plate to pour the remaining coins into his hands, the money in the concealed passage will naturally pour out with them. See Figure 80. Thus making the required addition with hardly a possibility of detection. It is a good plan to perform the trick first without, and then to repeat it with, the aid of the money plate, making a great point in the second instance of the fact that you do not even touch the money, and accounting for the use of the plate as designed to preclude all possibility for the use of sleight of hand, or any other mechanical mode of deception. The spectators, having already seen you perform the trick without the aid of the plate, are precluded from supposing that this latter has any special connection with the secret, and seeing clearly that you have in this instance no coins concealed in your hands, naturally conclude that the same was the case on the former occasion. Thus the repetition of the trick, instead of assisting them to a solution, rather increases the mystery. The trick may be varied at pleasure so far as regards the manner of the disappearance of the coins which are supposed to be passed invisibly into the hands of the person holding the larger number. One mode is to ask one of the company to wrap them up in a piece of stiff paper, for which you forthwith secretly substitute a piece of similar paper, in which a like number of coins have been wrapped, but have been removed, the paper, however, retaining the form of the coins. Taking this in the left hand, you pretend to take from it, invisibly, with the finger and thumb of the right hand, each coin in succession, and to pass it in the same manner into the hand of the person holding the remaining coins, finally tearing the paper in half to show that they really have passed away from it. Or you may, if you prefer it, place the coins in question on the vanishing plate, to be hereafter described, whence they mysteriously disappear as you take them off one by one. This is a very effective mode. Or you may place them in the plug box, the Davenport cabinet, or any other of the various appliances after mentioned for vanishing money. To make a marked sixpence vanish from a handkerchief, and be found in the center of an apple or orange previously examined. Have ready, concealed in either hand, a sixpence of your own, with a little wax smeared on one side of it. Roll another minute portion of wax into a round ball half the size of a peppercorn, and press it lightly upon the lowest button of your waistcoat, so that you may be able to find it instantly when wanted. You must also have at hand an ordinary full-sized table knife and a plate of oranges. You begin by borrowing a sixpence, requesting the owner to mark it, and a handkerchief. You spread the handkerchief flat on the table, with its sides square with those of the table. Then, standing behind your table, you place ostensibly the borrowed sixpence, but really your own, with the waxed side up, in the center of the handkerchief, then fold over the corners one by one, beginning with one of those nearest to you, in such a manner that each shall overlap the sixpence by about an inch, gently pressing each corner as you fold it down. Ask someone to come forward, and ascertain by feeling the handkerchief that the sixpence is really there. Then offer the knife for inspection, and after all are satisfied that it is without preparation, hand the plate of oranges to be examined in like manner, requesting the audience to choose one for the purpose of the trick. While they do so, your fingers go in search of the little ball of wax, and press it against one side of the marked sixpence, which still remains in your hand. Press the sixpence against one side of the blade of the knife, at about the middle of its length, and lay the knife on the table, the sixpence adhering to its underside. Then, taking hold of the handkerchief as represented in Figure 81, and blowing on its center, draw the hands quickly apart. The two corners of the side next to you will thus be brought one into each hand, and adhering to one of them, the one which you first folded down, will be the substitute sixpence, which will thus appear to have vanished. Hand the handkerchief for examination, that it may be seen that the coin has really disappeared, and meanwhile get rid of the substitute into your pocket or elsewhere. Turn up your sleeves and show that your hands are empty. Then take up the knife, taking care to keep the side on which the sixpence is away from the spectators, and cut open the orange. Cut about halfway down with the point, and then finish the cut by drawing the whole length of the blade through the opening thus made. This will detach the sixpence, which will fall between the two halves of the orange, as though it had all along been contained therein. Wipe it with the handkerchief to remove the juice of the orange from it, and at the same time rub off any wax which may still adhere to it, and hand it for identification. The coin may, if preferred, be found in an egg instead of the orange, the audience being invited to choose which shall be used. This trick is sometimes performed by the aid of a knife made for this special purpose, with a small spring lever, after the manner of a flute key, soldered against one side of the blade. The coin is held in position by the short arm of the lever, which answers the same purpose as the wax in the form of the trick above described. The disadvantage of using this, which is known as the fruit knife, is that you cannot hand the knife for examination, and this, to our mind, spoils the trick. The traveling counters. This is a very similar trick to that already described under the title of the multiplication of money. It is performed with 12 mental counters. The performer begins by counting the 12 counters on the table, then taking up 4 of them, he hands them to a spectator to hold, and taking the remainder in his own hand, commands them to change places. On examination, his commands are found to be obeyed. The spectator has 8, while the performer has only 4. The spectator is now requested to take charge of the 8, when the operator commands the 4 which he himself holds to rejoin them. This also is found to be accomplished. The operator now hands the 12 to a second spectator, requesting him to hold them tightly. After a moment's interval, he is requested again to count them, but finds he has grasped them too tightly, for they are now welded together into a solid mass. The performer again takes them, and by merely breathing on them, restores them to their original state. The student, with the experience which he has by this time gained, will naturally conjecture that the trick is in reality performed with 16 loose counters and 12 soldered together, that the performer commenced the trick with 4 counters palmed in his right hand, which he secretly added to the 4 which he handed to the spectator, that, taking up the remaining 8, and apparently transferring them from his right hand to his left, he really transferred 4 only, leaving the remainder in the right hand, and that when he again handed the 8 counters to the spectator, he added these last to them. That in apparently transferring the remaining 4 from hand to hand, he palmed them, forthwith dropping them into one of his pochettes, and taking from the same place, or from under his waistband, the solid 12, which he finally handed to the second spectator in place of the 12 loose counters, again substituting the loose ones as before, when by breathing on them he professed to restore them to their primitive state. As the student has so successfully guessed all this, it would be an impertinence on our part to further explain the trick. The Wandering Sixpence. Have ready 2 sixpences, each slightly waxed on one side. Borrow a sixpence, and secretly exchange it for one of the waxed ones, laying the latter, wax side uppermost, on the table. Let anyone draw 2 cards from an ordinary pack, take them in the left hand, and transferring them to the right, press the second wax sixpence against the center of the undermost, to which it will adhere. Lay this card, which we will call A, on the table, about 18 inches from the sixpence which is already there, and cover that sixpence with the other card, B. Lift both cards a little way from the table to show that the sixpence is under card A, and that there is apparently nothing under card B. As you replace them, press lightly on the center of card A. You may now make the sixpence appear under whichever card you like, remembering that, if you wish the sixpence not to adhere, you must bend the card slightly upwards in taking it from the table, otherwise take it up without bending. End of section 20.
Section 21 of Modern Magic. Recording by Lynn Thompson. Modern Magic, a practical treatise on the art of conjuring, by Professor Louis Hoffman. Section 21. Tricks with coin requiring special apparatus. Part 1. The heads and tails trick. This is a pretty little trick, of an unpretending nature, but of very good effect, especially if introduced in a casual and apparently extempore manner. The performer borrows or produces from his own pocket 4 penny pieces. Placing them upon the table, he requests some one to make a pile of them, all one way, say tail upwards. He next requests the same or another person to turn over the pile so made, without disturbing the relative position of the coins, and announces with an air of supernatural knowledge that they will now all be found head upwards. This appears so ridiculously obvious that the audience naturally observe, with more or less straightforwardness of expression, that any fool could tell that. "Pardon me," says the performer, "it is not quite such a simple matter as you think. I very much doubt whether any of you could do as much. I will place the coins again. Watch me as closely as you please. I will place them as before, tail, 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 tail. Is that fairly done? Now I will turn them over." He does so, letting the tips of his fingers rest upon them. What are they now? A general chorus replies, "All heads, of course." But on examination it is found that only 3 are heads, and 1 a tail. Again he arranges them, placing them this time alternately, head, tail, head, tail. He turns them over. The natural order, beginning from below, would again be head, tail, but they are found to be head, tail, tail, tail. Again he places them tail, 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 head. When turned over they should be tail, head, 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 but are found to be tail, head alternately. The secret lies in the use of a prepared penny, consisting of similar halves, in the case above described 2 tails, soldered together so as to be tail on either side. This the performer palms in his right hand. After first going through the operation with the genuine coins, as above, he picks them up with his left hand, and apparently transferring them to the right, really transfers 3 of them only. He then performs the trick with these and the prepared coin, when the apparently miraculous result above described becomes a matter of course. It is best not to repeat the trick too often, and a little practice is necessary in order to be able to return the 3 genuine coins neatly to the left hand, in which the 4th borrowed coin must be retained throughout the trick, at the same time secretly retaining your own. It is a frequent occurrence for one or other of the company, imagining that the seeming wonder is, in some unexplained way, a result of some natural principle, to request to be allowed to try for himself. It is obvious that, under such circumstances, it would not do to hand him the prepared coin, and hence the necessity for some quick and natural method of again getting the 4 genuine coins together. The trick may be brought to an effective conclusion as follows. After you have got rid of the double-faced penny, you may continue, "Perhaps it is a little too complicated for you with 4 coins. Suppose we try it with only 1, and I won't even turn it over." Placing one of the genuine pence in the middle of the right palm, which you hold out horizontally before you, you draw special attention to the fact that the coin is tail upwards. Quickly covering it with the other hand, you say, "What is it now?" "Tail," is the reply. "Wrong again," you say, and lifting up the hand, show that the coin has this time vanished altogether. This mysterious disappearance is effected as follows. When you apparently cover the coin with the left hand, you bring the hands together with a quick lateral motion, as though sliding the one across the other. This shoots the coin from the palm down the opposite sleeve, the motion being so quick that the keenest eye cannot detect it. This little sleight is by no means difficult, and is well worthy of acquirement, as it may be introduced with equal effect in many tricks. The magic cover and vanishing halfpence. This is a very old trick, but is still very popular with a juvenile audience. The principal apparatus consists of half a dozen halfpence, of which the centre portion has been cut out, leaving each a mere rim of metal. Upon these is placed a complete halfpenny, and the whole are connected together by a rivet running through the whole thickness of the pile. When placed upon the table with the complete coin upwards, they have all the appearance of a pile of ordinary halfpence, the slight lateral play allowed by the rivet adding to the illusion. A little leather cap, shaped something like a fez, with a little button on the top, and of such a size as to fit loosely over the pile of halfpence, with an ordinary die, such as backgammon is played with, complete the necessary requirements. You begin by drawing attention to your magic cap and die, late the property of the king of the fairies. In order to exhibit their mystic powers, you request the loan of half a dozen halfpence. The number must, of course, correspond with that of your own pile. And while they are being collected, you take the opportunity to slip the little cap over your prepared pile, which should be placed ready to hand behind some small object on the table, so as to be unseen by the spectators. Pressing the side of the cap, you lift the pile with it, and place the whole together in full view, in close proximity to the die. The required halfpence having been now collected, you beg all to observe that you place the leather cap, which the spectators suppose to be empty, fairly over the die. Taking the genuine coins in either hand, you pretend, by one or other of the passes, to transfer them to the other. Holding the hand which is now supposed to contain the coins immediately above the cap, you announce that they will at your command pass under the cap, from which the die will disappear to make room for them, saying, "1, 2, 3, pass." You open your hand and show that the coins have vanished. If you use a regular table, you may place them on the servante, and show both hands empty, and then, lifting up the cap by the button, you show the hollow pile, covering the die, and appearing to be the genuine coins. Once more covering the pile with the cap, you announce that you will again extract the coins, and replace the die, And to make the trick still more extraordinary, you will this time pass the coins right through the table, placing the hand which holds the genuine coins beneath the table, and once more saying, "1, 2, 3, pass." You chink the coins, and, bringing them up, place them on the table. Again picking up the cap, but this time pressing its sides, you lift up the hollow pile with it, and disclose the die. Quickly transfer the cap, without the pile, to the other hand, and place it on the table, to bear the brunt of examination, while you get rid of the prepared coins. The trick may be varied in many ways, according to the ingenuity of the performer, but it belongs at best to the juvenile school of conjuring, and we have not thought it worth while to waste space in elaborating it. The animated coin which answers questions, etc. This trick is performed in a variety of different ways, some with apparatus, some without. The effect produced is as follows. The performer borrows a coin, and after making a few mesmeric passes over it, drops it into a glass upon the table, where it immediately begins to jump about as if alive. The performer then announces that the coin thus mesmerized has the power of fortune-telling, naming chosen cards, predicting the number that will be thrown by a pair of dice, etc. The coin answers yes by jumping 3 times, no by jumping once, according to the approved spiritualistic code of signals. We shall not stay to discuss the questions asked, which are of the same class as those which are generally put to the magic bell or drum, but proceed at once to explain the various modes of producing the movement of the coin. One plan is for the performer to have a coin of his own, to which is attached a long black silk thread, the other end of which is in the hand of the assistant behind the scenes, or elsewhere out of sight of the audience. This coin is placed on the table in readiness, but concealed from the spectators by some larger object in front of it. When the performer advances to the table with the borrowed coin, he secretly picks up the prepared one, and drops the latter into the glass as being that which he has borrowed. A short, quick jerk of the thread by the assistant will make the coin spring up and fall back again, producing the required chink. It is only necessary to be careful not to jerk the thread so violently as to make the coin fly out of the glass. It is desirable, where practicable, to make the thread pass either through a hole in the top of the table, or a ring fixed to its surface, and placed immediately behind the glass. This will keep that portion of the thread nearest to the glass perpendicular behind it, in which position it will be completely hidden by the glass, and so be invisible. Some performers prefer to use the actual coin borrowed. The arrangements in this case are the same as above described, save that the silk thread, instead of having a substitute coin attached to it, has merely a pellet of wax at its end. The performer, having handed round the glass for inspection, and standing in front of the table with his left side turned towards the audience, picks up a pellet of wax with his right hand at the same moment that, holding the borrowed coin in his left hand, he begs the spectators to take especial notice that he really uses the borrowed coin, and no other. Having said this, he transfers the coin by a perfectly natural movement to his right hand, and pressing against it the waxen pellet, drops it into the glass. The third and last mode of performing the trick is by means of a special glass, with a hole drilled through its foot. This is placed on a suitable pedestal, in which works up and down a steel needle, forming the upper portion of a kind of loose piston. The top of the pedestal is covered with green baize, allowing free passage of the needle, which when pushed upward strikes the coin from below, with much the same effect as the thread pulling it from above. This pedestal is only available with one of the mechanical tables which will be described in connection with stage tricks. Such tables contain, among other contrivances, what are called pistons, being small metal rods which, by pulling a string, are made to rise vertically an inch or so above the surface of the table, sinking down again as soon as the cord is released. The pedestal is placed immediately above one of these, whose movement is in turn communicated to the loose piston in the pedestal, and thence to the coin. It only remains to be stated how the necessary knowledge for the answers is communicated to the person who controls the movements of the piece. With respect to chosen cards, the cards are either indicated by the wording of the questions, or are agreed on beforehand, the performer taking care to force the right ones. The assistant is enabled to predict the throw of the dice by the simple expedient of using a small boxwood vase, in which there are two compartments, in one of which a pair of dice, apparently the same which have just been dropped in haphazard from the top, have been arranged beforehand for the purpose of the trick. The ordinary fortune-telling questions as to which young lady will be married first, which spends most time at her looking-glass, which has most sweethearts, and so on, are either answered in accordance with previous arrangement, or according to the fancy of the moment. Of course, where a question of this kind is asked, the performer takes care to follow up the question by designating a number of persons in succession, so that a mere yes or no answer may be a sufficient answer. We shall next proceed to describe 3 or 4 pieces of apparatus designed to cause a piece of money to disappear, and therefore well adapted for commencing a coin trick. There are other appliances more particularly adapted for reproducing a coin. Any of these will be available for the conclusion, the particular combination being at the option of the performer. The vanishing halfpenny box, to make a halfpenny vanish from the box and again return to it. This is a little round box, made of boxwood, about an inch deep, and of such diameter that its internal measurement exactly admits a halfpenny. In other words, that if a halfpenny be placed in it, it exactly covers the bottom. The top and bottom of the box are lined with some bright-coloured paper, and with it is used a halfpenny, one side of which is covered with similar paper. If therefore this halfpenny be placed in the box with the paper side upwards, the halfpenny is naturally taken to be the bottom of the box, which thus appears empty. The performer begins by tendering the box for examination, keeping the while the prepared halfpenny palmed in his right hand. When the box has been sufficiently inspected, he borrows a halfpenny from the audience, and secretly exchanges it for his own, taking care that the spectators only see the unprepared side of the latter. He then announces that this box, apparently so simple, has the singular faculty of causing the disappearance of any money entrusted to its keeping, as they will perceive when he places in it the halfpenny he has just borrowed. He places the halfpenny in it accordingly, holding it with the uncovered side towards the audience, but letting it so fall that it shall lie in the box with the papered side upwards. He now puts the lid on, and shakes the box up and down, to show by the rattling of the coin that it is still there. He desires the audience to say when they would wish the coin to leave the box, and on receiving their command, touches the lid with his wand, and again shakes the box. This time, however, he shakes it laterally, and as in this direction the coin exactly fits the box, it has no room to rattle, and is therefore silent. He boldly asserts that the coin is gone, and opening the box, shows the inside to the spectators, who, seeing, as they suppose, the papered bottom, are constrained to admit that it is empty. Once again he closes the box, and touches it with the wand, announcing that he will compel the coin to return. Shaking the box up and down, it is again heard to rattle. Taking off the lid, he turns the box upside down and drops the coin into his hand. This brings it out with the papered side undermost, and so hidden. Again handing the box to be examined, he exchanges the prepared halfpenny for the one which was lent to him, and which he now returns to the owner with thanks. A variation may be introduced by causing the borrowed halfpenny to reappear in some other apparatus, after it has vanished from the box in question. The borrowed coin may, if desired, be marked in order to heighten the effect of the trick. The rattle box. To make a coin vanish from the box, though still heard to rattle within it. This is a useful and ingenious little piece of apparatus. It is an oblong mahogany box with a sliding lid. Its dimensions are about 3 inches by 2, and 1 inch in depth externally. Internally it is only half that depth, and the end piece of the lid is of such a depth as to be flush with the bottom. Thus, if a coin be placed in the box, and the box held in such a position as to slant downwards to the opening, the coin will of its own weight fall into the hand that holds the box, thus giving the performer possession of it without the knowledge of the audience. Between the true and the false bottom of the box is placed a slip of zinc, which, when the box is shaken laterally, moves from side to side, exactly simulating the sound of a coin shaken in the box. In its normal condition, however, this slip of zinc is held fast, and therefore kept silent, by the action of a spring also placed between the two bottoms, but is released for the time being by a pressure on a particular part of the outer bottom, the part in contact with the fingers. A casual inspection of the box suggests nothing, save perhaps that its internal space is somewhat shallow in proportion to its external measurement. The mode of using it is as follows. The performer invites any person to mark a coin, and to place it in the box, which he holds for that purpose as represented in the figure, and the coin is thus no sooner placed in the box than it falls into his hand. Transferring the box to the other hand, and pressing the spring, he shakes it to show by the sound that the coin is still there. Then, leaving the box on the table, he prepares for the next phase of the trick by secretly placing the coin, which the audience believe to be still in the box, in any other apparatus in which he desires it to be found, or makes such other disposition of it as may be necessary. Having done this, and having indicated the direction in which he is about to command the coin to pass, he once more shakes the box to show that it is still in statu quo. Then, with the mystic word "pass," he opens the box, which is found empty, and shows that his commands have been obeyed. The Pepper Box for vanishing money. This is a small tin box of the pepper box or flour dredger's shape, standing 3 to 4 inches high. The box portion, as distinguished from the lid, is made double, consisting of 2 tin tubes sliding the one within the other, the bottom being soldered to the inner one only. By pulling the bottom downwards, therefore, you draw down with it the inner tube, telescope fashion. By doing so, you bring into view a slit or opening at one side of the inner tube, level with the bottom, and of such a size as to let a coin, say a 2-shilling piece, pass through it easily. The lid is also specially prepared. It has an inner or false top, and between the true and false top a loose bit of tin is introduced, which rattles when the box is shaken, unless you at the same time press a little point of wire projecting from one of the holes at the top, and so render it, for the time being, silent. The box is first exhibited with the inner tube pushed up into its place, and the opening thereby concealed. A marked coin is borrowed, but either before or after the coin is placed therein, as may best suit his purpose, the performer secretly draws out the inner tube a 1/4 of an inch or so, thus allowing the coin to slip through into his hand. As he places the box on the table, a very slight pressure suffices to force the tube up again into its original position, and close the opening. Having made the necessary disposition of the coin, the performer takes up the box and shakes it, to show apparently that the coin is still there, pressing on the little point above mentioned when he desires it to appear that it has departed, and immediately opening the box to show that it is empty. The pepper box will not bear minute inspection, and is in this particular inferior to the rattle box. End of Section 21.